Hi there, I'm Stephen Leptak, Executive Editor of The Drum, and I'm here as part of a series of interviews with the chairs of the Drum's Awards coming up to get them to talk about the winners that they have chosen for the Chairman's Award. And for this interview, I'll be speaking to John Mathers, the Chairman of the Design Fund, and also the Chairman of the Drum Design Awards. John, welcome.
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Excellent.
Enjoying myself at home. How are you?
Well, we're all at home, enjoying the sunshine in Chiswick in London. So it's, everything's got its upsides.
Yes, certainly. We can at least it looks nice out the window.
Yeah.
So, John, I'm keen to start by asking you: could you reveal your choice of the nominee that you have decided to win this year's Chairman's Award for the Drum Design Awards?
Sure. Well, I'll just give you a bit of background. So we've been doing the Drum Design Awards now for 4 years. It was Glenn Tutzel and I who took it over. Sadly, Glenn is no longer with us, and I know he's going to be getting a lifelong achievement award at the awards when we run them. But Glenn's thing about great design was it had to be a great idea, beautifully crafted. So I've been able to choose really interesting things over the last 3 years, and then they've always been, I think, designs that have absolutely caught that moment of a great idea, which has then been beautifully crafted. And they also are designs that engage, and they have a sort of smile in their mind. So, for instance, last year we awarded it to Glaswegian, which was that wonderful bottle of the square bottle of gin with Glaswegian going around the side. It was great. So this year it's another drinks category actually, but it's a new category because it's pandering to an emerging market who don't want to drink but want to have the sensation of alcohol, of the taste and the flavour and the sort of craft and care that goes into a great alcoholic drink. So the brand is Sensor. The studio that did it was Magpie Studios, and they've actually won one of the Chairman Awards before, so they're clearly doing something right. And it was a really interesting decision because actually, and I don't want to reveal too much, but it wasn't necessarily an overall winner in some of the other categories. So things like illustration, there were better examples of illustration. Things like copywriting, there were better examples of copywriting, etc., etc. But it was when you took the package as a whole, it really sort of grabbed you. And when you read the story, and when you read the story on pack, and you saw the care that the illustration and just putting the whole thing together, it worked brilliantly. And I think that's what great design is about, is getting you interested, capturing you, making you smile, engaging with you, and making you want to engage with whatever the design is capturing. So that's really for me why Sensor Spirits won the category, won the Chairman's Award. And it'll be interesting. I'm sure we're going to see many more of those sorts of drinks in the future. And I think Sensor is one that people are going to have to emulate to succeed. So that's what it is.
What was it then that made it stand out for you then? How did it touch you personally?
Well, I think, and again, it was quite interesting because a bit more of a challenge this year because we were judging virtually, so we weren't able to hold some of these things in our hands and feel them. But it was the combination of things. It was the very clever copywriting, the beautiful illustration, the craft that had gone into some of the depictions of the animals. So there are 3 drinks, all meant to give you a sense of some of the emotions that you get when you drink alcohol. Obviously, this isn't an alcoholic drink. And each of them is captured in an animal, and the wonderful story that goes with each of these animals is then captured on the actual bottles. But I think when you look at the website, and that was one of the nice things that we were able to do this year in the judging. We were able to spend, because we split some of the categories into groups of judges, we were able to explore some of the depth of some of the entries in much more detail than we maybe have in the past. When you look at the website for Censor, it's really clever. It really engages you. And then when you look at Magpie Studios' website itself, they tell the story extremely well as well. And there's one little video about the lady who invented it and why she invented it and where the idea came from and how long she spent doing it. So I think the whole thing just came together in a beautifully packaged. So I think it's a great idea, using botanicals to capture emotions, which is then beautifully crafted. And it was that combination of things that came together extremely well.
And from being involved in this year's jury, was there any trend or any theme that you spotted that you think, oh, this is what's happening right now in the design world?
Well, I tell you one thing that was quite interesting was, given the situation of where we are, one of the sort of overarching themes that came across was this idea of things are going to change quite dramatically, change in the world in general, but I think change in the world of design and change in the world of experience and change in the world of retail particularly. And so some of us were saying that it's quite interesting if you'd been looking at some of the entries 2 months ago, 3 months ago, you would look at them in a very different way to the way that you look at them now. And I think that for me was one of the overarching themes. I think and we say this consistently, we've been very lucky. We've been growing the number of awards that have come into the awards every year for the last 3 or 4 years. And I think the quality has been getting higher and higher. So the standard is getting tougher and tougher. And for me, that's a very good thing, because it means that people have to really think, have I really done something well enough for this to go into an awards program? And actually, there were very few examples where we could say this should never have been here. Very few indeed. Most of them were of the right sort of standard. But I think that the competition is getting tougher and tougher.
And you mentioned Glenn, who sadly passed away a few months ago now. What makes him such a special designer?
The thing I always say about Glenn is Glenn, for me, encapsulated that quote, which is, it's amazing how much you can get done when you don't take the credit yourself. Glenn, for me, epitomized what a creative director was. He would be able to work with teams of people who would go away and craft the most amazing things, not really realizing that Glenn had set them off in that direction and had steered them in absolutely the right way. And he was just brilliant at that, because for him, it wasn't about ego. It was about producing beautiful things. And that was what drove him. And I was very lucky to have known him for as long as I did, and to have worked with him for the number of years that I did as well.
Sure. And finally, we're living in times that we've not known before, and every business has been impacted. Everyone in the creative sector in some way has been impacted. Would you have any advice for any designers out there right now about how they can just carry on as best they can?
I think one of the great things about designers and the design industry is that we've been taught over the years to be very flexible. It was quite interesting when we were doing our Zoom call. I was the Zoom Jedi Master, and we had a screen full of 16 or 17 judges, and we had a bit of a chat at the beginning and talked about what it was like working from home and the way that we're working now. And I would say that the vast majority of people were saying you know what, this is actually a good way of working. We're not going to go back to just doing the same as we've done in the past when this is all over. Nothing's going to be normal again, but it's not going to be more of the same. That there are ways of working smarter and better and just as productively, if not more productively sometimes, in this way. And so I think that my advice to designers would be to embrace what's happening, to think about how they can do things differently, not to worry, because things will come back in the short to medium term. I'm sure of it. And actually, I think that if you listen to what the Chancellor's saying, lots of other people are saying, the whole thing about innovation, we're going to depend in this country on innovative, creative ideas that will drive the economy forward. And I think designers and the design industry is at the very heart of that. So we are in a good place for the future, I think.
John, thank you again for being our chair this year and for once again being part of the awards. And thank you for sharing your insights.
Thank you.
And
thank you, Stephen. Best of luck with the drum.
Thank you very much. We have a lot to do. And thank you to our viewers for joining us once again. And congratulations to the winners.